Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm going to talk about a reverse PhD planning. So what do I mean by that? What I want to show you today is when you start a PhD, you should have an end goal in mind, right? So if you're starting say in the month of May 2024, so next month, you should plan something that by May 2027, that is 3 years from now, you should be finishing your PhD, right? So having this end goal in mind and working backwards from there will give you a proper guidance on what is required to complete your PhD, what activities you need to finish, and in what order. So today's session, I'm going to share with you my thoughts on what you can do. I have developed a 30 months timeline, not 36, because there is always something or the other that could delay your PhD. All right. So what we will do is look at from the end. So May 2027 or earlier than that, that the first thing is you have to finish writing your thesis. So that is your end task, but we will go through that as the first task in our list and then walk backwards from there, so we need to do this, then we need to do this, then do this, then do this, and we come to the start of the PhD, right? So that way I find having this kind of an approach is much better because you can start to visualize your PhD at the beginning, right? Imagine that you're writing your thesis when you start your PhD, right? You can start visualizing, and visualization has a very powerful effect on human thinking and human mind. Okay, so let me share my screen and we can start looking at the plan that I have developed. Okay, so I'm calling it reverse PhD planning to and a follow my 30 months PhD plan. So let's see. So if we were to suppose to start in May 2024, we should aim to finish by 27. Yeah. But what I have got here is I have a plan till 2026 October. So there is still some time in between for you to catch up on stuff if you are getting late, right? So what is the last thing that you would do in your PhD, right? The last thing is revisions and final submission of your thesis. So in this stage, you have to make necessary revisions based upon the defense feedback. If your PhD program has a defense, some universities in Australia have defense and some do not. Finalize and submit the dissertation according to the university guidelines. So let's say we plan 3 months for this activity, right? So before that, what would you do? You would have to defend your dissertation, defend your thesis. So you would have to prepare a comprehensive presentation, defend your findings before a panel, answer questions about your research. So there is some preparation that goes into in preparing for your defense. In my earlier video, when I spoke about PhD tools, what are the different tools that you can use in your PhD, one of the tools was Pico, which helped you to prepare for such presentations or defense. So do check that out. I say let's say 2 months for this. A bulk of your time in your PhD thesis, it goes towards thesis writing. Yeah, so you have to draft the different chapters, revise the drafts based on feedback from your supervisor, refine for clarity and coherence. So writing a thesis is actually should be a ongoing activity. It is not that you slot one particular time in your PhD timeline that you will start writing, although a lot of students do that. I have put this here 4 months. It's a relatively less time because what I suggest is you should start collecting or start writing information, start writing your chapter contents as you progress with your thesis. Okay, as you progress with your research. And I've done another video earlier on where I have suggested this. So do check that out as well. Link is in the description of this video. Next is preparing for dissertation writing. See, how you write a thesis matters a lot, and there is a lot of planning that goes in the writing or structuring of the thesis itself. A typical thesis has some standard sections, subsections, and chapters, right? So your thesis should have these chapters, because if you do not have, or these subsections, because if you do not have, then the examiners will be picking up on that point in your thesis. So putting in the right effort to develop a proper plan for your thesis and breaking it down to sections, subsections, paragraphs, and to a certain extent, even the content or the theme of that paragraph. What is it that you're going to cover? Yeah. So this is very important, because that planning will be help you to make sure that you're progressing properly with the writing. Because once you start writing, you do not have to think, what should I write? Yeah. The focus should be on doing the actual writing rather than thinking what to write. And that is why planning your thesis, planning what to write, is important, because it will help you to do the actual writing. So keep that in mind. Is very relevant, very important aspect. Then you have to allocate some time for integration and synthesis, where you synthesize your data, analyze it, and analysis, synthesize data and analysis into a coherent argument, identify gaps, begin integrating results into your field's body of knowledge. Basically discussing your research findings through and synthesizing the key discoveries that you have done through your research. Yeah, let's say 2 months for that. Data analysis. Now here, if you are conducting one series of data collection and one data analysis, this is a reasonable time, or a little bit even more. Yeah, so 3 months, or it could be 2 months for data analysis and writing as well. But if you are conducting multiple studies, then you would have to accommodate for that additional time for data collection as well as data analysis. So the 6 months that I have kept additional is to ensure that you have that additional time to cover your if you're conducting multiple studies. So for example, you may do a quantitative study, a qualitative study, and a design science element to your thesis. So there are 3 different studies that you have to do. So that is going to take time. Yeah. So incorporate that and see in what order or where it is going to fit. Next, look at data collection. So depending upon the number of studies that you are going to do, you have to allocate suitable amount of time for doing data collection. And on most occasions, these data collections cannot happen in parallel. They happen sequential. So for example, you may conduct qualitative interviews first, and then you may do a structured survey. Yeah. So you cannot do that in parallel, because the findings of one depend upon the other. So keep that in mind. So if I have put 4 months here for one study, you may consider, say, 6 months if you're doing multiple studies and multiple data collection. And this also will happen somewhere around after this. Yeah, it would be data collection part 1, data collection part 2. So you have to accommodate for that additional time. Next is, you may want to conduct some pilot studies or preliminary research to see whether the testing studies to test the methods that you are going to use. Yeah. So this is important, to do some pilot testing or pilot studies, so that you do not have to repeat your data collection if you find some issues or challenges when you are analyzing the data. Okay, so this is very important, and many a time the students do make mistakes here. They skip this part of their plan, directly start data collection, and when they come to do the data analysis, they realize that, oh, I forgot to add this information. I did not capture this data. I did not capture that data. And when that happens, you realize that you have wasted a fair bit of time here, and you may need to do some additional data collection to help you answer that. So doing some pilot studies will help you in managing that aspect. Okay, next is planning, initial research and planning. So this is where you are going to finalize your research methods, quantitative, qualitative, design science, or whatever methods you are disciplined. is typically uses. Establish research parameters, plan logistics for data collection. This is important. How are you going to do data collection? If it is interview, is it going to be face to face, if or is it going to be online? Have you taken their appointments from these people? Are you into their calendars and so on? So you need to have a detailed schedule for this particular task as well. And then we further come down is research proposal development, right? So you need to conduct a comprehensive literature review to develop your research proposal based upon your research objectives and the methodologies that you want to follow. Yeah, so this is where you finalize what you are going to do, and from here you actually start doing what you are planning. So this in itself, the research proposal that you are developing, is in itself a plan, right? So the planning section of the research proposal is very important because you have to follow and stick to that plan. And if you know what all things need to be done in advance, you can make this plan even better, right? So which is why knowing what all other things need to be done in a typical course of PhD is important to understand. So who can provide you the guidance? Of course, your research guide, research supervisor will provide you the necessary guidance on based on their experience. Plus, you can also talk to other supervisors or other PhD scholars, or check out videos like the ones I do or many others do, where we where we share our experience with on PhD supervision, and what all things you need to do so that your PhD becomes kind of enjoyable uh, during the course. Okay, choosing a research topic. So this is also very relevant. Personally, I feel that choosing the research topic is the most important step of your research, because everything that you do then depends on that. So if you choose a right research topic, right problem to solve, it will have a very good impact. The results that you get could be very strong, could be useful to a large number of people, and so on. So keep in mind that having a good amount of time spent on choosing the right research topic is very crucial. Yeah, so you can refine this in with respect with the feedback from your supervisor, but I would also suggest that you also talk to potential users who are going to use your research in the end. And what is it that they are keen to find out from the research. So it is not only defining the problem based upon the literature review that you have done, but it is also a good idea to talk to potential uh, companies or users who will be the stakeholders in your research. They are the ones who are going to be benefited by the findings of your research. So it makes more sense to to go and talk to them as well, not just rely on the findings from the or formulating the research problem based upon literature review. And the first stage is get acquainted with your program resources, meet the faculty, potential advisors, and understand the program expectations. So basically, this is kind of orientation or onboarding of the PhD program. Okay, so these are the things. Now, if you look from start reading from the point one: orientation and planning, choosing a research topic, research proposal development, initial research and planning, pilot studies, data collection. These all fall into the proper flow: data analysis, integration and synthesis, preparation for writing the dissertation defense, revisions, and final submission. Okay, so this is what I suggest, that you should start in advance. You should know where you are going. So the end result or the end goal has to be very, very clear in your mind. This is where I want to be. And how to get there is the plan that you have to develop and spend fair bit of time, yeah, on the plan. Don't just keep it as one of the tasks that needs to be done for the research proposal. Don't just take it as a um, as a to-do list. This is a very important aspect of your research. It is like a project plan, right? Having a project plan is essential to execute the project properly. So develop a plan, get some feedback from your supervisor, talk to others, talk to students, because it is equally good to get perspectives from current PhD scholars, right? So if they are in the second or third year and you go and talk to them and say, this is the plan that I have, what do you think about it? Can you give me some feedback based upon your experience? So the experience shared by a student or a senior PhD scholar will be different from the experience of a PhD supervisor. But both these experiences are equally important because they come from a different perspective. Yeah, the senior research scholar who is in the second or third year will tell you something different from their perspective as a student, whereas your supervisor or your guide will tell you something based upon their experience as your guide, right, as your supervisor. So the best thing for you in your interest is to get the feedback from both sides, right? Both sides of the coin, in a sense. Yeah. So that way, what you're doing is you are making sure that you are charting the path on which you are going to work for the next 3 years, as best, as clear as possible, so that you don't stumble upon, while you're working on that. So spend a lot of time preparing your proposal. If you follow this video, and if you develop your own research proposal, and if you want feedback from me on that, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be very happy to have a look at your proposal and then give my suggestions on your timelines. All right, so that is all in today's session. I hope you have been enjoying all the sessions that I have done so far. Today is the 60th video in a row that I have completed. And yeah, I've got some really good feedback from all of you. So I thank you very much for following me on this journey. It has been a fascinating experience over the last 60 days, coming up with one new video to help you guide in your PhD journey. All right, please share this video series to everyone who you think will benefit from this, and happy researching. Thank you very much and take care. Bye.